People will buy a pain pill before they buy a vitamin.
Yes, they will.
What does that mean?
That means, think about it. If you got a headache, right, you are doing everything possible to make sure the headache goes away. So you're going to go buy an aspirin, you're going to go buy a BC powder, which is my favorite, Goodies powder, whatever the case is, and you want it to be gone, right? So, in one of those courses I bought that year, I remember I was going through the course and they said there was like 3 or 4 categories that people always buy in. And one of them was like pain. I am in pain. So when I looked at like having bad credit and how it was literally preventing me from getting apartments, getting new contracts, making more money, that was my pain pill.
Right.
So I had to overcome my pain pill. But then when I put out my pain pill, being truly authentic, I'm like, yo guys, this is how I improved my credit score 224 points. Oh yeah, by the way, I got these templates you can buy.
Right.
It started picking up like wildfire. And then I was able to say, hey, look, not only do I have this pain pill, I got these vitamins too. Well, we already got a relationship, so they wouldn't buy the vitamins now because I solved their pain.
Welcome to Black Wealth Weekly Podcast, where you can find different guests being interviewed by me, Shaniqua Nicole, the Millennial Money Maven, every single week, where we will be breaking down how they got into their respective industries and are creating wealth for their families. You don't want to miss an episode, so hit the bell and tune in. What's up, family? Welcome to this week's episode of Black Wealth Weekly. I'm your host, Shaniqua Nicole, the Millennial Money Maven, and I have an amazing guest here with me today, guys. Please welcome King Kenny Conwell. He is the creator of My Money Edu, out here teaching people how to build wealth and so much more. What's going on, King?
Glad to be here.
I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Looking forward to dropping some information that's hopefully going to be impactful to people who look like us.
Awesome. So tell us and tell the people, what do you do, who you are and what you do?
So my name is Kenny Conwell, a.k.a. Mr. Money Savvy, and I've been in a financial education, I would say financial services industry since 2007.
Okay.
So I started in college, A&T, Aggie Pride, to all the Aggies watching this.
Okay.
And I've just been doing it since then. So really now, to make it really, really clear, I literally teach people how to become a first-generation millionaire, leveraging their credit and their cash flow.
Gotcha.
So there's a lot of concepts that I can teach you, but the biggest thing is how you can leverage cash flow and your credit to become a first-generation millionaire.
Gotcha. So are you yourself a first-generation millionaire?
I am a first-generation millionaire.
Gotcha. Where did you find, like, what made you want to become a millionaire? Not everybody, wants to be rich. A lot of people, look at their parents and their family and say, okay, well, maybe this is the life that I'm going to settle into too.
True.
What part in your journey did you decide, like, no, I know that wealth is for me and I'm going to go after it?
What's interesting is, like, I just kind of became a millionaire. It wasn't like an overnight success. However, like, I made the decision back in 2007. Like, I was a millionaire then. I just had to manifest it in reality, right? So I think it just kind of just happened because I just applied a lot of the principles I was learning from people who didn't look like me. And then I think that journey, and we can get into like the whole story and stuff, it really started when I made the shift from working for money to getting money to work for me. Said another way, I learned how to invest in myself. So I think it was like 2014, 2015, I had these affirmations and I was like, yo, I'm a millionaire. I'm a multimillionaire. And I wasn't a multimillionaire at the time, but I would affirm it. And I was making 6 figures at the time. And then I was appreciative of getting the 6 figures.
Right.
Right. And then that allowed me to realize, okay, if I can do 6, then I can do 7. If I can do 7, I can save 7. I can invest. And then eventually it just happened.
Listen, you speak my language because I literally tell people the first 6 figures is not for you. The first 6 figures is for your mind to understand that you can create more.
Yes.
The first 6 figures, number one, people, have this idea about, oh, I want to make $100,000. Number one, $100,000 is not, it doesn't go as far as it used to, right? $100,000 isn't going to allow you to hire someone in your business to do the work, right? So that first 6 figures that you make, whether it be your job or as an entrepreneur, is really to unlock your mind and let you know that there's so much more out there.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
I love
agree.
that.
I agree. And what's interesting about that is, I had, like, again, I started when I was in college, right? So I thought six figures at the time was so unattainable.
Me too.
I'm like, man, six figures.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, man, that's a lot of money. And even in college, like I was making 2, 3, 4 grand a month in college.
Doing what?
I was selling insurance and I was doing prepaid legal. So Legal Shield, prepaid legal.
They still
hats off to
around?
you. Yeah, they are. And I learned so much about sales and marketing and prospecting because I started with Primerica, then became a broker, and then I got into prepaid legal. So by the time I graduated from my A&T, I didn't want to get a job. I didn't have to get a job. So I just kind of kept doing my thing. I did work with Wells Fargo Retirement for a little bit just to learn like investments and retirement accounts. And I eventually ended up going to a financial planning firm. But the point of this whole small story is I remember I had made like 70 grand. And 70 grand as an entrepreneur is, I now understand if you don't know anything about sales, anything about marketing, it's not bad, right? Because nobody's paying you. And going into the next year, like, yo, I want to make 6 figures. And then make a long story short, one of the things that many people try to do or they stop doing is the daily disciplines that makes them the money. So I stopped doing what was working to go chase this big deal. And this big deal was supposed to make me 6 figures in one full swoop. But I stopped doing the daily activities. Went all in on this deal, credit, cash, investments, everything. You can probably finish the story for me as I'm leading up to it. Deal did not go through, right? Lost everything. And I think the point of this story is that sometimes you won't even realize that first breakthrough in 6 figures is just the daily things you're doing.
Right.
And then you look up and you hit 6 figures as opposed to saying, I'm going to put everything in one thing. Not saying it won't work.
Right.
But it's more prudent to just focus on the one thing, and you're going to be the one that helps you make that first 6 figures, right?
That's so good. That is so good because I have to 100% agree, right? It's same thing, has happened in my business. It's like, okay, so I do taxes, right? I've been doing taxes for 15 years.
Nice.
But similar to you, worked corporate, but sales is kind of like my passion. It's just where I love helping people. And, got successful. I had my successful career, had my successful business on the side. It was a little side business while I was working. And it worked well because I was making 6 figures here, 6 figures there. But when I left the job, I didn't have the discipline, right? That, the job and the system that we're in from school, from elementary school to middle school to high school to college, then to the career, it puts us in this system that we don't even know that we just do every day. We get up and do the things. And then you leave and become an entrepreneur. Now you've got all this freedom. What am I going to do with all this freedom?
Right.
What am I supposed to do with this time, right? How do I create a full schedule, right? I'm used to working on overload, not on a freedom mindset. So tell me how, for you, how that transition was from, being a college student, starting off in low-level sales into transitioning to this abundant mindset. Like what helped you kind of break through that?
Yeah, this is a really good question. So to kind of go back and fast forward to this story. So literally car goes out for repossession. I could not afford my half of the rent for my roommate, which was only $562, by the way. Like I couldn't believe I had a nice apartment with a roommate and was only paying basically less than $600.
Right.
Had to move back in my parents. Car went out for repossession. Credit is trashed. And then, I had a couple of deals on the table, but I hit rock bottom. I was in a parking lot and I was like, you know what? I need to get a job. Right. And that's the
How was that for you?
It was humbling.
Okay.
I was like, dang, I got to get a job, man. Because every time at the time, because I'm a financial advisor at the time, or it was really just selling insurance, starting to get my investment license. But the segue, I'm like, man, every time someone would ask me what I did, I would say I'm an entrepreneur. I was proud of it.
Yeah.
Right. But then, so I wouldn't even say I was a financial. I would say I was an entrepreneur. Oh, one industry. Oh, I'm in the financial services industry.
Right.
So to have that, pride and then have to swallow it and realize that, man, I got to get a job. It was tough.
Yeah.
So, I still was selling insurance on the side. I moved to Atlanta. I got a job interview. One of the people that I borrowed money from called me and was like, yo, Kenny. And I pick up the phone by saying, I ain't got the money. Like, I'm not saying, hey, nothing, because I thought she was calling about the money. It's like, no, I'm calling about this job opportunity in Atlanta. I'm like, well, tell me
He's
more.
like, let me get ahead of this before she even asks.
Whole time. So, she's like, no, it's this job opportunity in Atlanta. I connect with the people, end up getting a job, move to Atlanta with my clothes and a car. I mean, that's literally it. And I moved to Buckhead. And I could barely afford the rent. But I put 3 weeks in a hole. I mean, I'm so broke, but it was a sales job, right? So from like, February 1st, because I got the job on the 19th, had to put 3 weeks in a hole, had just enough money to pay the rent. You know, when if you got bad credit, you got to put the security deposit down. Put the security deposit down, had to do the prorated fee, and then rent was due on the 1st. So I ain't had the bread. So I had these business checking accounts. So I had to overdraw all my business checking accounts. Legit, PNC will let you pull the money out, and I have 4 different accounts. So I pulled out $2,400 cash, and I am below broke.
Wow.
Credit is trash, everything, and then I kind of paint that story to let you guys know February 1st, 2013, not only am I broke, I'm negative in my bank account. Right? All my accounts are negative. And then to kind of transition to your question, I become the #1 sales guy at this company, not because I wanted to, I had to, right? Because I had to get myself out of the hole, still had to pay the rent. And then the first thing I bought, because I'm merely on an air mattress for the first 4 months, I bought a desk before I bought a bed, before I bought a couch, just so I can still keep doing the sales job and the business part-time. Then fast forward, September 2013, I walk away from this particular job to do my own thing. And I just kept the same discipline I was doing because I realized that, hey, look, if I woke up, prayed, read, worked out, and kept those daily disciplines of personal development, those things would carry me through. So when I did walk away from the job, like from there was 2013, I think 2014, I made like 80 grand. And then 2014 to 2015, that's when I made my first 6 figures. And I made my 6 figures in the most unsexiest way. And when I say it was unsexy, it was super unsexy.
You want to tell us how?
Yeah. I was legit in Atlanta selling life insurance and Medicare to seniors in the hood. Like, I mean, straight up, I had 3, 4, 5 appointments a day, and I got leads, and I would show up and, hey, what's up? You sent me this back. What you trying to do?
Right.
And I would do $200, $300, $400, $500 a day.
Right.
And then I would do it 5 days a week.
Right.
And then I would wake up and do it 2, 3, 4, 5 days a week. So I realized that if I kept doing the daily disciplines every single day, that discipline was what gave me the freedom, right? And before, when I was undisciplined, I would focus on activities that didn't make me money. So
like what?
So I would get caught up in this big deal, right? Like, oh, I'm going to do all of these little things and thinking that I'm going to make all this money, but not realizing that when you do a big deal, already have cash flow coming in. And if you invest in the big deal, do that alongside the daily activities. Don't stop doing everything and go chase that from the big and do the big deal. If you don't got cash, you don't got savings, you don't got cash flow coming in, because you're gonna blow the deal.
Right.
Next, you're gonna be broke, busted, disgusted, tight, and upset. So I guess to kind of really answer the question, I just realized that it was certain activities I had to do. I had to make sure I did my personal development. I had to make sure I prospected.
Yeah.
I had to make sure I had appointments on the calendar, and I had to make sure I had sales coming in. Everything else I can kind of outsource.
Yeah.
But those are the key things I made sure I did.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
and personal development is so important. Did you have any mentors or any books or anything that you were reading that helped you through that process?
So it was a couple of different books that I read. Actually, several books I read, and this is actually a growing theme. At this point, I probably invested about $500,000 in my own personal development over the years. But I would always, either invest in a book or invest in this. So one of the foundational books for me was The E-Myth. So I read that book way back in college. Really good book. It's about systems. So that book was good. Never Get a Real Job was another good book that was a breakthrough for me. The 4-Hour Work Week was a really powerful breakthrough book, because at that point when I read that book at the beginning of that first journey of me learning how to delegate, systematize, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So that was a powerful book. How to Win Friends and Influence People was another good book I read a few times. Rich Dad, Poor Dad was a book I read. That was in college. So all these books kind of started to shape my thought process.
Yeah.
Then I ended up reading another E-Myth book, because E-Myth is a really good book because they have different sectors for different industries. So I got E-Myth Financial Advisor, E-Myth Lawyer, E-Myth for Tax Professionals.
Okay.
So that book really helped me understand the difference between working in the business to working on the business. But I've now learned that you've got working in the business, which is doing the activity. You've got working on the business, then you've got working above the business. Because if you really think about it, the business is nothing more than an asset.
Right.
But many of us, we create these entrepreneurial endeavors, but we really just create another job for ourselves.
Facts.
Right. So in that book, I learned working on the business, but I've now realized that if you create a system, save you some time, energy, and money, that's all system means. The system will produce cash flow for you, and now you can work above the system, and the system actually works for you. That's why we take our money and we invest in the stock market. These companies have created a system to create cash flow, and the value that we're able to input in them, our cash, can then make us more money.
Right.
That's how we want our business to eventually be. So that was a really, really powerful book. And there's other books I've read. Another one. Here's another one. You can't teach a kid how to ride a bike at a seminar. Right? David Sandler. That was one of the most powerful shifting books from a sales perspective, because a lot of people think that sales is selling. No, sales is asking the appropriate questions to uncover, can you help this individual with the product or service that you have?
Right.
Right. And the only way you figure that out is if you're truly selling, you're serving somebody.
Right.
Right. You just happen to be compensated to solve a problem.
Right.
So that book helped me understand that sales isn't, oh, I got this. No. Let me ask you questions.
Yeah.
And if the stuff that I have is in line, cool. If it's not, no love lost.
Right. Yeah, no, that's so good. I was just watching a YouTube the other day, a podcast interview with a rabbi. And he was saying that the only reason that we have money, the only reason God gave us money is because we need to have a reason to interact with each other. So, if I interact with you and I figure out how I can help you, then that's why we have the money, so that we can exchange. But if we didn't have, if we didn't need money, we wouldn't feel the need to help people, and we wouldn't feel the need to earn and make more, right? So it's a level, we know that, money is a energy, it's currency, it's electric, right? And it has a vibration to it. And, for me, that was just so powerful, where he said, if God put money here so that we have to connect, right? Like, it's my duty to figure out how I can help you, how I can serve you, and help take what I know and input that in you so that you can go to the next level.
Right.
So yeah, I love that. Oh my goodness. So before, you got yourself together, you went through college. How were you growing up? Were you always entrepreneurial?
Yeah.
Were you a party kind of guy? Like, what were you doing before college, I guess?
That's a good question. Like, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, straight up. Like I hate, I don't want to say hate, I don't like to use that word. It's unfortunate that I don't have any pictures of me when I used to wash cars and cut grass. Because that's what I used to, that's legit what I used to do. So I would legit, and I didn't realize that at the time I would see like houses that the grass was messed up. So I would go knock on doors and say, hey, I noticed that you need your grass cut. What you trying to do?
Right.
And
what you trying to do?
like, what's up? You need your grass cut? Like,
that's how you closing all the deals.
Yeah, that's how
what you trying to do?
That's what I was doing. I can do this. I can do this. I can get the edges.
Right.
So when I was in middle school and in high school, I cut grass and I washed cars, and I figured out that, hey, look, if I had like 10 yards every other weekend, then I could legit have, a consistent cash flow. So what I would do is I would have, like 5 to 6 or 7 yards on Saturday, and then I would have some on Sunday or the day before, or on Thursday.
What did you need money for as a kid?
I just wanted to have cash.
You just liked
you know, at the time in high school, Jordans, Jabos, authentic jerseys.
Oh my
You know what I
gosh.
mean? Fitted hat. This is
The
back
straps all
when,
down your pants.
This is back when Cam was big, and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, that's what I would buy. I
Right.
mean, I didn't really know or understand money then.
Yeah.
But
You just wanted the freedom to do what you wanted to do.
I did. Yeah. And I had my cousins working for me. I'd be like, hey, look, if you do this, I'm gonna give you this much, and give you these yards.
I love it.
But I've always, like, my entire life, this has just been who I am. I can't really explain it.
Right. When did you get to the point where you realized credit was important? You sounds like you've been, working, right? Cash flow, sales, working the jobs and systems. When did you learn that, because I know that's a big part of what you teach. When did you learn that credit was like that thing that you needed
when I hit
to
rock
get
bottom.
to the next level?
When I hit rock bottom, because at the time, that was like when I really had to rely on credit and I didn't have any, right? So when I moved to Atlanta, I had to use, they ran my credit, right? To see if, where, we need to see what your score is. And then I had to put more money down. And then, having my insurance license, there were certain insurance companies and annuity companies that would check your credit score. And they say, hey, listen, we're a top tier company. We don't feel comfortable allowing you to represent us as a broker unless your score is good. And then I eventually got my Series 65, became a financial planner. And,
all your business was their information.
Yeah.
Now.
And it was like, hey, bro, like, what's up? You manage investments at this point.
Right.
So you gotta address this.
Yep.
So that's when I really realized. And then what's so interesting is back when I was doing like the personal financial planning, and doing cash flow, the credit conversation kept coming up. So for me, though, it was when I legit was making six figures.
Yeah.
I was making six figures, and it was preventing me from getting these contracts, doing my investments. And I was like, yo.
So you were making six figures and had bad credit?
I was absolutely making six figures with bad credit.
So what were you doing? You were living a six-figure lifestyle as well?
I was absolutely living a six-figure lifestyle. You know what I mean? Like, this is why I know this. Like, I'm living in Buckhead. Right? I'm getting drivers. I'm getting bottles. Like, I'm like, whatever. I made 10 grand this week. What do you want from me?
Right.
So, so I was living this six-figure lifestyle, but then realizing that, yo, I can't even like go get a new car if I want to. And one thing I kind of share this publicly now, like I legit stayed in the same complex like for like 4 years. Like I didn't move because I knew they were going to run my credit. So I just got comfortable in that particular location. It was a nice complex, but it was then when I realized that I needed to fix my credit. So it was January 2015, I had made the decision that I was going to improve my credit. And then from January 2015 to February 2016, I improved my credit 224 points.
Wow.
And I was at that point kind of tired of, for lack of a better word, trapping insurance. I really wanted to get into like the higher level, opportunities to do like the financial plans, do the investments, and this credit thing was following me around. So, I had formed a business partnership in 2016 to stop selling insurance physically in the field and do it over the phone. So I formed this company and had a partner, which is something I would tell entrepreneurs that are full-time, do not partner with someone who has a full-time job as a full-time entrepreneur because the thought process is completely different. They don't got much on the line because at the end of the day, they got a check coming in 2 weeks, right? Quick lesson for you. So ended up walking away from that partnership and walked away from like $40,000 in commissions. And I found myself in the same exact boat again. I had made 90 grand this year, was still on track to do six figures, but I was struggling to pay my November rent.
Right.
I'm like, how am I back in the same position? And I remember, and I said, I'm not messing up my credit again.
Right.
So at the time, I created this YouTube video, and behind the scenes, I've been learning funnels and direct response marketing. And I said, you know what? I've improved my credit. I put together this ebook course. Let me put it out there.
Yeah.
And I legit make enough money to pay my rent in November. And then people was like, yo, Kenny, I'm following your ebook. I'm following your process. This is really working. I'm like, really? This is interesting. And then I legit only had kennyconwell.com. That was it. And I was trying to sell, and this is a good lesson for people to understand when we create cash flow. earlier that year, I was still doing the insurance stuff and getting my, stuff doing that. But I wanted to create this budgeting course called the Money Savvy Blueprint. And nobody would buy it. And then I realized that was a vitamin. Credit was a pain pill. Because when I realized that people would buy a pain pill over a vitamin, that's when I really started to realize that, man, you know what? So many people they need help with credit. And I was embarrassed to share because I'm over here telling people about their money and I got bad credit, but then I overcame it. And then there was a lot of other people who had the same issue and then it just kind of took over like wildfire.
Woo, that's so good though. Like we got to pause on that. So you said people will buy a pain pill before they buy a vitamin.
Yes, they will.
What does that mean?
That means, think about it. If you got a headache, right? You are doing everything possible to make sure the headache goes away. So you're gonna go buy an aspirin, you're gonna go buy a BC powder, which is my favorite, Goodies powder, whatever the case is, and you want it to be gone, right? So, in one of those courses I bought that year, I remember I was going through the course and they said there was like 3 or 4 categories that people always buy in. And one of them was like pain. I am in pain. So when I looked at like having bad credit and how it was literally preventing me from getting apartments, getting new contracts, making more money, that was my pain pill.
Right.
So I had to overcome my pain pill. But then when I put out my pain pill, being truly authentic, I'm like, yo guys, this is how I improved my credit score 224 points. Oh yeah, by the way, I got these templates you can buy.
Right.
It started picking up like wildfire. And then I was able to say, hey, look, not only do I have this pain pill, I got these vitamins too. Well, we already got a relationship, so they want to buy the vitamins now because I solved their pain, right? So that really shifted my whole focus on how I approach business because I realized that, hey, look, a lot of people know me for credit and all that stuff, but now there's so many things that I do past credit, but I'm going to start the relationship with you with a pain because I want you to see
I love that
I can help you. And then once you get that solution, that pain satisfied, hey, I got this. Got
a whole buffet for you.
Yeah, got the whole thing for you, you know?
I love that. Wow.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Kenny Conwell. I know you're really enjoying the episode, but if you want to get the blueprint to create a credit optimized holding company and put yourself in position to get up to $250,000 in actual credit in the next 12 months or less, click the link just below this video, register for my training. I'm gonna break it all down for you so you too can start that wealth journey right now using somebody else's money.
So it sounds like you were able to then start to leverage your credit.
Right. So then actually, I didn't necessarily start leveraging my credit in 2016. I started creating cash flow. And then in 2017, I think I had made I remember we went to DC and I think in December, I was having like $200-$300 days. I'm like, man, this is crazy. Cause I was, I put a video out on YouTube that went viral and then I started doing Facebook
How'd you do
ads.
that?
I just put the video out.
What was it about?
It was how I improved my credit score. The 3 steps to improve my credit score, 224 points. Legit went viral.
Wow.
I didn't even think it was gonna go viral.
Right.
I really have figured out how to get the negatives removed from my credit, but during this time, I was still learning how to build credit.
Right.
So at this point, I'm just creating cash flow and reinvesting back into the business. And it really wasn't until like 2018 that I really started to leverage credit.
Okay.
Right. Personally, I had got some. I remember I got a few credit cards, and I remember I got approved for my American Express Gold card. Right.
Top tier.
That was when I first got approved. I was like, man, because I remember a couple of years prior, I called American Express. No, they wouldn't even say hi to me, you know? No. I'm like, man, come on, bro. Like, what's up? Like,
yeah, no, listen. Getting approved for American Express card is like on the list of, on the bucket list of many people. And it's like, I have arrived when you can get your American Express card.
Yeah.
So tell me your thoughts on leveraging credit. What do you think about just, being able to have access to additional funds to be able to leverage?
So it's 2 things I want to say about this. The first thing is that when you're doing well financially, do well financially. A lot of us, remember, we don't understand how to manage our cash flow. So before we even get to the concept of leveraging credit, we got to do well financially. We got to have a clear cash flow, right? So if you're a business owner, follow the profit first model. If you're an individual and you're looking to become a better steward of your money, you want to follow a 3-bucket approach. And what I mean by this is you want to have a fixed bucket to take care of your fixed expenses, a present bucket to take care of those present choices, because typically your present choices, going out to eat, buying nice shoes, doing all those nice things, override the future bucket because you're not thinking about putting money away for the future. So what I tell people is, on a personal side, do all 3 buckets. So now you're taking care of today, you're putting some money away for the future, and you also take care of the past at the same time. So when you're doing well financially, do well financially. That's the first thing. The second thing is that all money and credit does is amplify. So if you don't have a good handle on credit when you're making 5 to 15K, or you don't have a good handle on your $500 or $5,000 credit card, you're not going to have a good handle when you get a $50,000 card or a $100,000 line of credit because you don't understand how it works.
Right.
So my thought process is we want to have a good handle on cash flow and understand that credit is not free money, it's just leverage. Now, once we've essentially understood that, credit is a tool to be leveraged, I think credit is powerful because you literally can create money out of thin air.
Right.
If you understand how to use it strategically.
Right.
So that's, I can go into way more detail about this.
Yeah, so I would like for you to go a little more into detail because, the average person, they're afraid of credit, right? They are like, oh, I've got these credit cards over here. So I guess tell me what a person in this situation would do. So let's just say I make good money.
Right.
I have decent credit, but I'm not really investing. I'm not getting ahead in life, right? What does it look like for me to be able to build wealth, right? And whether that be leveraging credit, whatever, what's the path that you would recommend for me?
So the first thing we got to focus on is what I call a skill set, right? So managing money, believe it or not, and managing credit is a skill set.
Yes.
So we need to invest in a skill set on how to just simply manage money. And that could mean learning how to leverage and manage your money and getting that skill set, number one. But number two, we want to learn how we can make money. So my skill set, and it sounds like your skill set, is in sales. So at the end of the day, if I lost everything, which hoping I don't, I can still sell and I can create cash flow out of thin air because I know how to transact business. So said another way, if you're at a place where you're looking to build wealth and you want to invest, let's just say $10,000, whether it's on a credit card or invest $10,000 in a 401k, it's better to invest in a coach, a mentor, a program who has a proven track record to show you how to develop that skill set. Because think about it. If I told you, hey, look, if you invest 10 grand with me or 20 grand with me, I have a proven blueprint that can make you 6 figures in the next 12 months. Versus if you take this 20,000 and you invest inside of the stock market, you'll probably make 20%. 20% on 20,000 is, I think that's 4,000.
4,000.
20,000 in the skill set to make me 100,000 over and over again. What's the better investment?
Right.
The skill set.
For sure.
So I tell people the very first thing is if we get a handle on how to manage money and how to maneuver with money, and then couple that with making more money from a skill set perspective, that is the key.
That's the key.
Because now you can create cash flow and you'll start to now realize, you said something earlier about money being energy, right? Money, it is an energy, it's a vibration. So now what's happening is you're starting to understand that, hey, look, money is no more than a tool, it's an energy, it's a vibration. So if I understand how to maneuver it, get it to work for me, and then I know how to make more of it, this now starts to open me up to the abundant mentality to make more of it, because now the money knows, the energy understands that you're not going to waste it.
Right, or stop it.
Right.
So here's the thing about money. Money always wants to be moving, right? That's why it's called currency. It's like a current water is always going to be moving.
Right.
But what people don't understand is that when you are not a good steward of your money, you stop the movement.
Correct.
Right? So like the average person, I literally asked this question on my Facebook yesterday. If I gave you $10,000 today, what would you do with it? 60 to 70% of the people said they would pay off debts.
So, I'm so glad you brought this, because you asked a really good question that really segued, because a lot of people think about, when they look at credit, they look at it as debt. And they take credit and they invest in what's primarily bad debt or liabilities that don't produce cash flow.
Yep.
So the first investment I was saying is you are the asset.
You are the asset.
One of somebody that says this, I think Alex Ramosier, if I'm saying his name correctly, he says invest in the SME 500, my skill set, because that's always going to return the best. Mm-hmm. But then again, if you're looking at debt, if I can get a $200,000 debt, buy a $400,000 property, or just buy a $200,000 debt, buy a property that's worth $250,000, and the debt on that's, let's just say $1,000 a month, but I can rent it out or cash flow it for $3,000. I'll take that debt every single day of the week, because it's going to be self-liquidating.
Right.
Somebody else is paying for the debt.
Yeah.
But I have the underlying asset that I own. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't get the mindset, right? But what I know is that we are just not taught about money, right? Like I said, 70% of people said that they would pay off debt. So I'm like, if you pay your debts off, is that going to make your life better?
No.
Is that going to help you make more money? And that's a problem, right? Money is a currency, it's an energy. It's supposed to keep going. Energy is not created nor destroyed.
Right.
So when you understand that you taking your hard-earned money to pay debt, it stops the flow. It stops the current.
Right.
And that's why it's so hard, and you have to wait 2 more weeks until you get more.
Right.
So talk to me a little bit about, what's your philosophy on just leverage in general?
So instead of taking the cash to pay off debt, in this example, we should take the cash and do something that's going to make us more money.
Yeah.
Right. So my philosophy is, if you look at, first off, you have to understand that, yes, it is a currency, but money itself is debt. So the dollar is debt. So saying that I want to get out of debt means that you're not even playing the rule of the game correctly, because you think that it's an actual thing, but it's debt. So now we have to understand, how can I leverage the debt to cash and then go purchase something or investing something that's going to produce more cash flow.
Right.
Right. So I'll go ahead and share this. So earlier this year, and this is kind of like, the philosophy is, you want to take credit, invest in something. I'm going to give a simple play, but then I'm going to break this down to talk about a play that I just recently did.
Okay.
So in its simplest terms, if you have a car, you've got more than one car, and you happen to live in an area that has Turo or one of these car sharing services, historically a car is a liability, because it's generally going to depreciate depending upon the car. Yeah. However, that debt is $500 a month. But if you go put that car on Turo and it's able to make $2,000 a month, now you have a liability that's been turned into an asset, and the asset, the car itself, is paying for the debt. Right. So I've legit created money, an asset, and I've created cash flow. Yeah. So my thought process is, how can I leverage this debt to make me more money at its simplest terms, right? Because it's just leverage. So if I'm able to, take this, cash and then go get access to control this asset for pennies on the dollar, why wouldn't I do it? But the deeper thing is, from a tax perspective, would you rather pay 20% or 30% in taxes, depending upon your effective tax rate, or 5 to 10% in interest? Now, that's a trick question for most people, because they're going to say, well, I don't know, because I never thought about it from this perspective. Right. But you going to say something?
Well, I think the average person is just afraid of interest, period. So I have a friend I was just talking to this week, and she's like, I have this card, and I thought that I was paying, the right amount on it so that I wouldn't have to pay interest. She had 12 months, no interest. If you pay it off, it's 12 months, no interest. If you go beyond that, then you have to pay all the interest. It's like a balloon payment with the interest at the end. Okay. And I'm like, well, what's the opportunity cost of your money here, right? If you take the $5,000 to pay that off today, then you lose the opportunity to take this $5,000 and invest it somewhere else. So that's your opportunity cost, right? Especially when you're saying like you are the asset. So, she's considering investing in someone's program or investing, in her children, whatever. But the opportunity cost of that $5,000 that, you're saying, look, I'm just going to take my money and pay off this debt because I don't want to pay interest.
Right.
But what it is the little $300 in interest worth?
This is it.
You giving up your $5,000 in buying power?
No, it's not, because in most cases, people don't look at it from that standpoint. They don't look at the opportunity cost, and they don't think about, okay, well, if that $5,000 I invest in whatever can turn to $30,000 in 6 months or a year,
right?
Then that actually made me more money than I would have made had I just paid the debt.
And that's exactly what I told her. And I'm like, look, let's take a look at some 0% interest credit cards, right? And then she's like, oh, but what about, what's the interest rate? How long is the 0% interest for? Don't worry about that.
Right.
That's not your issue. Your issue today is you don't want to take this money and pay off the debt and lose your money, your buying power with this money. You want to get it so that you don't pay the interest over here and you get another 12 months worth of interest. Oh, well, what's it going to be after 12 months? Who cares?
It doesn't matter, right? Because this is like a twofold thing, right? Because right now, I think inflation is probably like 9%.
Yeah.
Right. So if you get a mortgage, or if you get any type, let's just say a mortgage or a line of credit that's at 5% or 6%, you're actually still winning because the dollar is actually still depreciating itself at 9%. So if I get money for lower, this is what we call negative interest rates, then inflation, I'm still winning.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a hard concept for most people to grasp.
Right.
But yeah, you've got to be able to turn the cash into cash flow. And then if you have the cash flow, then the cash flow will be way more than the interest rate you're paying. So it's leverage. So if I'm able to take 5 and turn it to 50 in this example, but the interest rate I was paying was 10% or 20% or 30% on the 5,000, let's look at the numbers. Well, if I pay, let's just be worst case scenario, say I paid 30% interest on 5,000, that made me 50. That means I paid $1,500 to make $50,000. Who cares? Right. And that's like, it's a different thought process that people have to really wrap their head around. But it goes back to looking at how we use the debt. We're going to use the debt to make more money, not use a debt to go into debt to buy a pleasure that's going to be a short-term solution that's going to solve a short-term situation that's not going to have any lasting effects past emotional decision on how I feel about once it's paid off.
Right. Yeah, I have this exercise that I do with people to help them understand interest, right? And it's like, okay, I'm going to give you $100, right? If I give you $100 and you can do whatever you want with it, but I tell you I want $150 back in a month, would you do that? Would you take that deal?
$100, we're going to get $150 back?
Yeah.
It depends on what I'm going to do with $100.
Or even $1,000. Let's just say I gave you $1,000 and I want $1,500 back, and I'm going to give you a month to do it, right? Now, the interest rate that I'm charging you is 50%.
But if I can make more money, I wouldn't care.
If you can make more money, you don't care about the $500 that you're paying me.
Because because in this example, I just immediately went to, okay, if you gave me $1,000 and I have to pay you back $1,500, but I know I can turn that $1,000 into $3,000, $5,000, $7,000. I would pay you the $500.
You would pay it every time. So that right there is the simplest way that I try to break down interest to people, right? Because we are always so afraid of paying the interest. What's the interest? What's the interest? Why does the interest matter if you know how much you can make on the other side, or you know what the positive side of the equation is?
I have a real life situation that I did this with. It wasn't that high in interest, but at this point, I think I have about like $1.2, $1.3 million in just credit on the business and personal side, and I'm always leveraging.
How do you? I want you to finish your story, but how do you get $1.2 million in business credit? Let's get there after you finish the story.
Stacking, you got to stack. It's this concept called a holding company. I'll get into it, but what I want to communicate though is that I took out a line of credit I got approved for a line of credit in January for $125,000, and I had just bought a house. Well, I was in the process of buying a house. and I knew I was going to put down a nice down payment. And I had the cash for the house and the investment, but I said, you know what? Instead of me using my own cash here, and the underwriter's going to be like, where'd this money go, or where'd this money come from? I just leveraged the line of credit, and I invested the line of credit in this calculated investment. Make a long story short, that investment in February turned from $100,000 to $283,000 from February to June 1st. And I legit took the money out of my investment to pay off the line of credit. Now, this line of credit, I think I probably paid about 10% in interest on this during this time frame.
Yeah.
Ask me if I care. I don't.
Listen, you got 285% on the other end, on the winning side.
Correct.
What investment gave you 285%
Can't really
return?
get into all that right now. You know what I mean? It's too much to get into. Just know that I almost tripled my money, and I created that money out of thin air.
Right, and you didn't care about the interest.
I didn't care about it, so I paid the interest off. I paid the investment off. I paid the line of credit off, and the 183 actually went from 183 to about 400,000 by September 30th. So I legit would have probably I legit quadrupled the money, right?
That you borrowed.
That I borrowed, that I leveraged. Right. And because it was my birthday on the 30th, I went and bought a Ferrari. Now,
happy birthday!
I appreciate that. Now, I didn't take the full amount and buy the Ferrari cash. I still leveraged the leverage, meaning I still got the Ferrari. I financed it in the name of an LLC, so it's technically a business vehicle. Doesn't show up on my personal credit, and I took just enough money, enough profit from that investment to pay the monthly payments for the next 12 months.
I love it. This week's episode is sponsored by ABCs for Rich Kids by 7-year-old author and entrepreneur Bryce Nicholas. Please tell us where we can find your book.
ABCsforRichKids.com.
Awesome. This book is so amazing, guys. It literally goes from A to Z with different financial terms for your little loved ones. Awesome. So we've got F is for future value, E is for evaluation, H is for air. Guys, if you do not have this book, the Amazon #1 bestseller, please go and grab it now at abcsforrichkids.com. So talk to us about this $1.2 million. How do we get access to $1.2 million in business funding and credit?
So what we want to do is understand this concept of the holding company, right? So there's two things I want people to understand. Number one, if you Google, you will notice that Google is actually Alphabet Inc. Facebook is now Meta. So these are just two tangible examples I can give people to understand that, hey, look, Google itself follows the principles I'm getting ready to talk about. So does Facebook. So number one, we want to form a holding company. And this holding company would be in a business management or it's not in a restricted industry because financial services, investment, real estate, trucking, logistics, it's a whole list of them. All of these are restricted industries. So this means by definition, if I go to the bank and say, oh, I'm in this or I'm in that, they're going to be like, oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
We would have given you 100,000, but historically these industries did bad, so we're going to give you 25, right? So the first concept we have to understand is we want to form a business management holding company, right? And then all our other LLCs or business that we do is below the holding company. Okay. That's the first thing. Now, the second thing is that once we form this company, we can be taxed as an S or C corporation, but we want to, or a partnership, depending upon your tax situation. But once we do that, we really want to start funneling all of our cash flow to the holding company. So although I've got 3 different LLCs that are producing cash flow here, let's just say LLC 1 produces 400,000, LLC 2 produces 200,000, and then LLC 3 produces another 300,000. Well, collectively, if my calculations are correct, that's $1 million. So if I have all that money flowing through one holding company, although they're all from these LLCs, guess what I have? I have
$1 million business.
I have $1 million business. Now, what happens is that over time, we can start to stack our credit from tier 1 to tier 7, not to get into the weeds of this. So every bank, I'm not saying every bank, but most banks, they will be willing to give you at its easiest terms, anywhere between 10 to 20% of your gross revenue of your company in a line of credit or credit card. So what we start to do is we just start to get, we go out, we get these credit cards, we get these lines of credit, we get it from different banks, and the next thing you know, you got $1 million in credit. And that's like the simplest, quickest way I can explain it without going too much of the nuances. But the biggest thing is that we want to have a holding company that's a business management company.
Right.
And then we want to start to funnel our cash flow. If it makes sense, of course, talk to your accountant. This is not legal advice. This is not financial advice, right? And then you start to like stack from there, right?
Gotcha.
So if you get a credit card, for example, I ran this play. I got American Express first, but then realized that American Express is a stingy bank. So although mean people want to get American Express cards, know that American Express want their money. And
every 30 days.
They gonna want it, bro. Hey, what's up with the money? You know what I mean? We want our money. So when I got approved for that $50,000 Chase card, I went and I leveraged that approval to a couple other banks.
Yeah.
But I leveraged my track record from American Express when I went to Chase and say, hey, look, I'm already spending this over here with American Express. What do you want from me?
Yeah.
I want a higher limit. And I just started leveraging the approvals and the track record from one bank to the next bank.
Gotcha.
Right? So.
And I know Chase, they have two. They have two good business cards.
They got the Ink and the
Sapphire.
Sapphire.
Yep.
And believe it or not, one of my largest lines of credit is actually with Facebook. I have a $250,000 line of credit with Facebook.
For ads?
For ads.
Wow.
And I run ads all the time.
Dang, I don't even, you must have a marketing company, because I'm like, a line of credit, they typically require you to put your credit card in.
Right. So Facebook has something called Facebook invoicing, and it's technically...
Like a net 30?
It's a net 60.
A net 60, okay.
It's a net 60, but it operates just like a line of credit, right? So you have the ability to use it, make money, and then pay it off. So remember, we're talking about the pain pill thing.
That's crazy. Anybody can get that, or you got to be like a certain kind of account?
$10,000 per month for 3 consecutive months, and then you can apply for Facebook invoicing, right? So Facebook arguably is a big line of credit, but then I've got, bank here, I got 150 here, I got 100,000
So talk to
here.
us, give us some banks. Let's we're salivating now. Like you giving us all this good information.
I can't give all the banks only because it depends
not
on where,
all the banks.
where
Not
they
all
are.
the banks. Give us a good bank that is not Chase, Wells Fargo, that we all know about. Where can we go get a $100,000 line of credit?
I'm not going to say you can go, but Fulton National Bank is a good one.
Okay.
They will.
And this is like a local.
This is like a local bank. Fulton
Okay.
National is a bank. They'll look at your bank statements. They'll look at your history. But there's a lot of banks that would do it. There's another one. I haven't done business with them, but Digital Credit Union. I believe Federal Digital Credit Union. I think that's how they're pronounced. It's a digital credit union that if you do business with them or bank with them, they'll be willing to give you money. Navy Federal, that's another good one. But the concept really is we need to have the correct structure.
Yeah.
Once we're structured correctly and we do the necessary things by putting together like a credit optimized holding company, going through the whole optimization process, getting the DUNS, getting the Experian number with Experian report, making sure that even as simple as having a professional email address, having an actual holding company website, having an 800 number, all these small little nuanced things, using a commercial address, not
and
a
you
home
do this
address.
for all the companies.
Absolutely. But I focus on the holding company.
Okay.
Right? So when clients come to us, they may be making like $1 million, but they don't have any credit.
Right.
And they may be in the restricted industry. I was like, that's the issue. Like, we got to get you associated from being in this restricted industry and form the holding company.
Gotcha.
This does 3 things. Number 1, it helps you from a credit perspective. Number 2, it helps you from a tax perspective. Number 3, it helps you from a legal perspective. So if you choose to sell the business, you're selling the business asset. Remember, we're working above our business. Our business is an asset. We're not selling the revenue, the cash, the credit. That's one part of it. That's one school of thought. The other school of thought is, what if somebody sues you? Cool, you can sue me all day long. I mean, you're not affecting my holding company. You might be affecting that individual LLC.
Right.
But then number 3, even if we're thinking about it from like a tax perspective, you do taxes, so you understand this. Some people are so gun-ho on, I want to lower my taxes as much as possible, not realizing that here's another gem I realized like 2 years ago. I paid $75,000 in taxes. I hated that. But
I hate that for you.
But let me explain. Although I paid $75,000 in taxes, that allowed me to get qualified for $1 million home that appreciated $300,000 in equity, number one. I also was able to get approved for about $250,000 in other lines of credit. So now the question becomes, would you pay 75 to get access to $500,000? It's a different thought process.
Right.
But you also understand that if my holding company's tax is an S or C or whatever, and I'm paying some taxes, this is qualifying me to go out and get more leverage. And if I understand how to leverage money and invest in assets, who cares?
Right.
Because my focus shifts from compensation and taxes to equity and appreciation. Because equity and appreciation, we don't pay tax on that unless we take a distribution.
Yeah.
We only pay tax on distributions.
So talk to me about the difference between equity and compensation.
Yes. So compensation, if you're a business owner or individual, if you're an individual, you getting taxed out the yin yang. It just is what it is. You got FICA, federal, all this stuff. It just is what it is. Versus if we go back to the example, a simple example everybody can resonate with. If you bought your home at $200,000, the value of the home increased from $200,000 to $600,000. You have equity of $400,000. Did you pay tax on that? No, you don't pay tax on the appreciation. So what we have to really start to figure out is, okay, if I'm paying a little bit of tax here, but I'm investing in something that's going to appreciate, I can increase my net worth without paying tax.
Yeah.
So now as a business owner, I've got to start to shift from how can I get that $1 million a month to how can I create $1 million per month business? AKA, how can I make sure I have EBITDA, earnings before tax, interest, and depreciation? And if that's the case, let's just say I have a business, which I have not done this yet, but I'm going to do it, that has $1 million in EBITDA, right? Well, what this means is if I want to sell my business because I realize that my business is the product, I can sell that for anywhere between, depending upon the industry, 8 to 25 times EBITDA.
Right.
So what am I saying? I'm saying that if my business is doing $1 million EBITDA, it's really worth $8 million to $25 million. So that means my net worth is $8 to $25 million. Even though I may have paid maybe $1 million or $2 million in tax that particular year in this particular example,
right?
But I'm still worth like $30 million.
So why is net worth important more than your income? Well, what do you think about that concept?
Net worth is way more important than your income because you can leverage net worth, right? So there's different ways that we can leverage, right? So if we're looking at, we'll just use me as an example. Let's use me as an example.
Okay.
I legit, because I structured my company correctly, leveraged $100K, made an investment, leveraged $100K, made an investment, increased my net worth $400K by using somebody else's money. So did I pay tax on this? No, I just increased my value. Well, technically I might have to pay a little bit of tax that made a distribution, but you get the point.
Yeah.
So when we start to think about assets and appreciation versus compensation and net worth, really, we can leverage our value and the assets to either take distributions, which I would avoid, but take loans out. Really, the best thing we can do, we can take loans out.
Way.
And if we take a loan out, and this is how we
that's
make
the whole tax play right there.
I was just about that's how
I tell my clients that's something I do with like my high net worth clients is, like you said, it's all about that structure, right? Because you have your $1 million business up here. Well, guess what? If this business has $1 million, what is it doing with it?
Right.
It can make investments, right? It can lend LLC 1, LLC 2, LLC 3. It can lend each business $200,000,
and that can reduce.
And that's now going to reduce their taxable income, and it's also going to reduce the original LLC income because it flows through.
Yep.
Right, but you still have that money in the business to operate the business.
Yep. Gosh, you just dropped the gem right there.
You just have to have your paperwork. You have to have your contract, and you have to, just show the paper trail and the money trail.
Yep.
And that's literally how you can move millions between yourself, your companies, your businesses, and never pay taxes on it.
Right. But if we think about it though, let's just use your example. Let's just say, because you still want to pay some tax.
Yeah.
But you don't want to overpaid.
You're
in
going to pay
tax.
tax here,
Right.
But you don't have to pay taxes everywhere.
But think about it. Let's just still use this example.
People just try to go to zero all the time.
You don't want to go to zero
Right.
because if you have if you have the ability to pay, let's just say 8 to 10% interest, would you rather pay 2 to 10% interest or 8 to 10% interest, whatever you choose, or however the bank does, or 20 to 30% in tax on the same money?
Right.
It makes more sense just to pay the interest,
right,
because it's a lot less than the tax.
Right.
And
guess what? I'm the lender, so I'm paying myself the interest.
And I can write the interest off to lower my taxes.
Right.
So it's a more powerful play. A lot
Absolutely.
of people don't even understand, like, there's certain like stock investments. So there's like 4 types of leverage, where you can borrow against the leverage and pay yourself back almost like your own bank. It's real estate, because you can do a HELOC or cash out refinance. It's believe it or not, the stock market. So if you have the portfolio structured correctly, you can borrow anywhere between 30% to 70, 80% of your portfolio value. It keeps appreciating in value, and you use this money to make more money.
Right.
You can do the same exact thing with life insurance. Cash value life insurance, if you leverage the the cash value life insurance policy correctly, and then a business line of credit.
Yep.
So now we're leveraging underlying assets to make more money, and the value of the original asset that we borrowed against, if we do it correctly, is still appreciation, right? So that's like leverage, right? It's powerful.
Absolutely. Wow, I love that. So now that we have this leverage, we have our system, our entity set up, right, with our holding company and our LLCs underneath. Where does wealth come? What's your philosophy on continuing to build wealth with this wealth triangle? So
my philosophy is that you don't want to stop personally growing, right? So you want to continue to grow personally, increase your own value. But then if we choose to create a cash flow producing business, we understand that I'm making me money, my business is producing cash flow, and then my money at the bottom is making me money. So now what starts to happen is that, okay, if I secured one property and I did this correctly, let me go do another property, and then let me go get another property. And we just kind of continue to repeat the same exact cycle that made us the money. So what starts to happen is, and this is like a key thing I had to realize, is that, if you ask me what I would do with $10,000, I'm going to use it in Facebook ads, because I know I can turn the 10,000 to 30, 40, 50,000 in 30 days. So we just continue to do the same exact thing that was making us money, right? We just don't stop. So now we start to realize that momentum kind of kicks in. So now, instead of even buying a $3 million property or a $4 million property, I now can maybe leverage the value from this property and go buy another property. And we just kind of keep the cycle going, right?
Yeah.
And that's like the best thing I can say. You could say, and this is like really advanced, you could say, well, hey, look, I got the holding company set up, I've got these investments, I've got real estate. Because my whole philosophy is real estate, investments, cash flow, hard assets, right? That's like what makes us rich. But then what truly makes us wealthy is, at this point, my number, let's just say your number is $30K a month. The combination of all my assets are going to produce $30K a month, whether I work or not. So now I'm good to go. I don't have to do anything else if I don't want to, because my assets are producing enough cash flow over and above my expenses, and I'm good. And that's kind of like what I kind of tell people. But if you take it one step further, what we could do or think about is setting up a trust. So now the trust owns a holding company. I don't own the trust. I'm a trustee of the holding company. So now what starts to happen is, if something happens to me, this holding company flows up to a trust, and you just happen to be the trustee of the trust. You don't own the trust. You're just a trustee. And then now you really kind of put yourself in this game of own nothing, control everything, right? So now what happens is these assets are owned by LLCs, which is owned by a holding company, which is owned by a trust. And you just have enough cash flow coming in to meet your lifestyle, your expenses, whatever you choose that to be. But the thing is we got to figure out what our financial independence number is, right? So many people think, oh, it used to be I need to save up $3 million to produce 10K per month, which is $120,000 a year. Now you can create the same, let's just say 10K per month or 30K per month, whatever your number is, by having maybe this portfolio Airbnbs, this portfolio rental properties, this portfolio Turo cars, this portfolio of whatever your deal is, like investments that I've made. And it's producing enough cash flow. So now the cash flow is sufficient enough to produce my needs. And if I want to take a loan out against this asset to go buy another one, I just repeat the process and it just compounds. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, for sure. Whew, y'all, that was a whole $1 million. I mean, that's probably your $1 billion game plan. Especially once we start talking about trust, own nothing, control everything. Mm-hmm. I love that concept. I'm actually, restructuring things because look, we're first generation here. So don't feel like you need to know everything, right? But as you continue to learn, we don't know everything, right? But my whole job is to learn more and implement for my family because I'm also first generation wealth building, first generation entrepreneur, first generation college student, right? All the things. So if you're out there on your journey and you're trying to figure it out, and some of these concepts might sound like they are over your head a bit, just slow down, focus on the assets, focus on cash flow, and continue to build, right? This is your journey, so go at your pace. But tell us a little bit about what you have going on and, what maybe we can expect from you in the near future.
So I'm going to go ahead and put it out there. I'm going to drop my podcast.
Okay.
Right? It's going to be the Financial Leverage Podcast.
Financial Leverage?
Financial Leverage Podcast. I'm going to go ahead and drop that. I'm putting the structure in order to get it out there just so I can talk about more concepts like this.
Right.
But really, those people who want to learn from me directly and they want to be able to work with me, I've got 3 opportunities. If you're in the fixed stage of your credit and you need help, follow me on Instagram, right? At Kenny Conwell, Kenney, Conwell. And then click the link in my bio. I've got a whole process to help you improve your credit. If you're in the build stage, meaning you don't have bad credit, but you need to build your credit, click the link in my bio. The simple strategy is overlooked by 95% of people fixing their credit. And I'm gonna break down how you can become a first generation millionaire leveraging your credit. If you're in the leverage stage, meaning you don't have bad credit, but you have great credit, but you want to leverage it, still click the link in my bio, and I'm going to break down how you can get up to $250,000 in a credit optimized holding company in the next 12 months or less. And we can show you how to leverage your credit, right? One of the key things that even if you're watching this and you've started building up business credit, I can almost guarantee you don't have the holding company structure in order. And I'll walk you through exactly how I have personally created my holding company to get this $1 million in credit and how you can do the same exact thing as well.
Gotcha. Well, I know I'll definitely be tapping in. Now, I got a couple $100,000 in business credit, but I'm not up to $1 million yet. So, there's levels, right? There's levels. So I'm excited to get my first $1 million in business credit, y'all. So I'll make sure I tap in with what you have going on, and y'all make sure y'all tap in too. He definitely shared some gems with us. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Drop some comments on what are you going to do to build wealth for your family. Like, subscribe, go and follow Kenny at
Kenny Conwell, at Kenny Conwell on
Instagram. And make sure you follow me, the Millennial Money Maven, at Money Maven Club on Instagram. Like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace. Thank you for watching this week's episode of Black Wealth Weekly. I'm your host, Shaniqua Nicole, and I hope to see you next week. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on them notifications, and head to blackwealthweekly.com where you can read all the new episodes of these entrepreneurs and so many others.